Hey guys, welcome back inside of the Plastic Planet. I am your host, Nick Nack, hanging out with you guys today. Today, guys, we're going to be wrapping up my Star Wars Kenner vintage inventory video series. I've got a ton of vintage action figures, some from my childhood and some that I bought as an adult, just like the last video where I shot these. I've got a bunch to get to tonight, so we're not going to dick around too much, but I do hope this video has found you guys safe, healthy, and hopefully as happy as possible during these trying times. So anyway, guys, let's not screw around. Let's get to it right now. This is going to be great.
Knickknacks Plastic Planet.
Alrighty guys, so first and foremost, we're going to use a little bit of a stage prop today to show off our vintage action figures. I'm going to use today this Kenner Return of the Jedi series Jabbas Dungeon playset. This was actually a remold of the Droid Builder factory from 1978, 1979 that came with all those astromech parts in the vintage line. The mold is the same, it's just different colored for Jabba's palace, and it's just a slight variant on that. Probably the face label might be a little different on it as well. This particular piece actually came with 3 vintage Star Wars figures, and that was sort of a rare thing back in the day. If you were a vintage collector back in the 1980s, playsets rarely came with action figures. This was an exception. I don't recall if this is an exclusive or not to a certain retailer, but it did come with 3 figures, and they were 3 figures from the rare Power of the Force line that came with coins. I don't think I still have the coins, but I certainly still have the figures. And let's start out with a gem. This is one of the crown jewels of my Star Wars collection. Alrighty, so there is Headhunter, as he was known in the vintage line, also known as a Man-a-Man. I've showed this figure off on my channel a couple times in different videos, but he is worth noting again. One feature on this figure that I just kind of found jarring as a child was sort of the grotesque nature of his staff here, which of course has decomposing, severed heads on it. Including one that's rather small that could have been a child. I believe there's a severed hand on this molded onto the brown plastic here. I always found this to be rather jarring, ghoulish, and really, really quite awesome. So he is an amazing figure. If you don't have a vintage Man-a-Man or vintage Headhunter, he is definitely one to get, in my opinion. I love this figure a lot. He was from my childhood. All original pieces, all original parts here. Managed to keep him in sterling condition considering his age. Absolutely fantastic. He came along with this playset in addition to Barata here, who I believe was a skiff guard on Jabba's sail barge. And so he came with this as well. So there is Barata. Not a lot to show off with Barata. He's, fairly benign action figure. He's got a pretty cool pimpin' lemon yellow vest there and some off purple pants, but a very, very cool figure. It came with a staff. I believe that is original. All original parts on that one. And the other figure that this set came with was the infamous Droid Dungeon headmaster, as it would be. Headmaster, it's like he's a transformer. But that would be EV-99. This is an awesome action figure. This, again, is from my childhood. He was actually missing one of his arms. This particular piece was for several years. I lost the arm, and as this figure is infamous for doing, the arms tend to pop off. In fact, it's on the verge of popping off again right there. The arms were notorious for popping off on this particular action figure, and mine did as well. But I was digging through an old storage bin of mine from my childhood just about a year ago, actually, and I found his arm in there. So all original parts on him, all from my childhood. Absolutely epic. Love me EV-99, if I can get him to stand up for me. On top of the... Yeah, there it is. Awesome. Absolutely awesome.
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
Alrighty, guys. Well, I was going to use this playset over here as sort of a display stage for this inventory here, but as we're going along, I'm finding it increasingly hard to actually set figures on top of it while videoing. So we're gonna forego that idea and kind of put stuff to the side here. Next figure up. This is a figure from my childhood. All original parts on this one, excluding the action figure stand he is displayed on. That is Weequay. Look at Weequay. That is a fantastically awesome figure. Awesome sculpt on this one. He was I think he was a first wave Return of the Jedi figure. I could be mistaken. Came out in 1983. Again, from my childhood. Absolutely awesome. Next up is another Return of the Jedi figure, and there's going to be a lot of Return of the Jedi love in this particular inventory today, or video. Next up is everyone's favorite co-pilot, except for maybe Chewbacca. That's Knee Numb. Absolutely awesome vintage figure. Reproduction gun on him, but absolutely awesome. Bought him as an adult. He is not from my childhood, but still absolutely awesome. Glad to have him in my collection to join alongside a figure that I have had since my childhood. And that is, of course, I'm having a hard time getting him to hold his gun, so I might just forego the gun for now. No, I got it. That is, of course, is General Lando Calrissian. This figure is from my childhood. Had him since I was a kid. Cape is original. The gun might be a reproduction. In fact, the gun is a reproduction, but he is an absolutely awesome, awesome vintage action figure. I have been holding out for years for Sideshow or for Hot Toys to give us a modern 1/6 scale action figure of Lando in this particular outfit from Return of the Jedi. I don't know why that's taken so long, but that needs to happen. Hot Toys or Sideshow, probably Hot Toys. That needs to happen. This is an absolutely fantastic figure, one of my favorites, and definitely my favorite version of Lando Calrissian when he and Knee Numb took down the second Death Star. Absolutely awesome. Another Return of the Jedi figure coming up, and this is another robot, another droid. Had him since my childhood, all original here, and that is, of course, 8D8, who was in Jabbas Dungeon, torturing poor droids with a rather hot branding iron. Really freaking cool. There is 8D8. He's a little dirty. He's been loved. Played with him in the sandbox out in the backyard. Played with him in the garden out in the backyard a lot. Really cool. I actually think his legs can come off, which is really cool. I'm not going to do that now, but I think that can happen. So very cool. Yet another Return of the Jedi figure. The gun is original on him. That is the Biker Scout from my childhood. Same figure from my childhood. Love me the Biker Scout. I think he sat on top of a speeder bike for years, so he's in pretty good shape. But yeah, absolutely awesome. Love me the Biker Scout. Coming up next, I actually had this ship up until just a few years ago. In fact, I still do. I'm missing the canopy to it, which makes me sick because I lost it as an adult. That is, of course, the B-Wing pilot from Return of the Jedi. Really awesome. There's the backside of him. Didn't play with him a lot, but this figure is from my childhood. Very nice stiff joints on him. He was well preserved, well loved. Unlike my Bib Fortuna here, who has not been taken very good care of. This is from my childhood. My Bib Fortuna. He's in a little rough shape, missing his part of his outfit, but still cool. Still cool to have. Missing his staff, obviously, too. And then finally, we have the awesome Prune Face from Return of the Jedi. You know, for years and years, I thought he was a henchman in Jabba's palace. But no, he actually was part of the Rebel Alliance, and he was on the ship when they were planning the assault on the Death Star. He was in that galactic Rebel space meeting there in the middle of the film. But for years and years as a kid, I always thought, for good reason, judging by his appearance, I always thought he was a henchman in Jabba's palace. I guess that's a lesson to me to never judge a book by its cover, right? All right, let's keep going, guys. Alrighty, guys, coming up next is everyone's favorite overweight animal lover, and that is, of course, the Rancor Keeper from Return of the Jedi. I believe all original parts on this one. I might be mistaken on that weapon, but nevertheless, I know the upper head scarf is original. Figure is from my childhood, so very fun figure. He is really cool. He was well played with. He usually was the butt of some joke, I'm sure, as a child. But nevertheless, really fun action figure. Coming up next, guys, we got another figure from my childhood, and he is missing everything. But he is very minimalist here. But that is, of course, my Skiff Guard Lando Calrissian. Lost his helmet ages ago, but still a part of my collection, even though I don't actively display that particular piece. In addition, we have Klaatu from Jabba's sail barge. This is the sail barge version. I think there were two versions of Klaatu. One that was from Jabba's palace. This one was from the sail barge, or from the skiff, I should say. Hence the one with the helmet. And there is Klaatu from my childhood as well. And finally, wrapping up the Jabba series of figures in this batch, I think, we have Nikto. Nikto was from Jabba's skiff as well. Very fun figure. This one is from my childhood. All original parts on this one. Well, there is all original parts because there are no accessories, but nevertheless, he is from my childhood, so very cool. And finally from my childhood, well, not finally, but finally in this particular batch here that I'm holding, Gun is a reproduction, but everything else is original. This is my Jawa from when I was a kid. Very cool. Managed to keep his cloth cape over the years. Never lost it. Rarely took that one off, but really cool. That was one of my favorite action figures in the vintage line. Was the Jawa with the cloth. Really, really fun. Really, really awesome action figure. Alrighty, guys. Coming up next, we have yet another Bib Fortuna. This is one I bought as an adult, I think, for parts, but he does actually have the intercloth or intercoat little chest plate that Bib has. So still missing the staff on that one. But nevertheless, there's another Bib Fortuna. And then coming up, we have the Emperor himself, Emperor Palpatine. This particular Emperor, for me, this is from my childhood. This was a mail-away figure. So I got him, with the, like my Admiral Akbar, like my Power of the Force Anakin Skywalker. I got him with sending away to Kenner in Cincinnati, Ohio, with a number of UPC symbols and probably $1.99 for shipping. And you get him 4 to 8 weeks later, and there he is. Very, very cool. So I was very excited to get the Emperor back in 1983, 1984. Then to go along with my Emperor, I have not one, but two Royal Guards. They're both missing their Force Pikes, unfortunately, but I have both two Royal Guards. The one here, this one here, is actually from my childhood. This is a little more dingier one I bought later on as part of a set of figures. I went on eBay and I bought like a big haul of action figures for parts and things like that. So I got a second Emperor's Royal Guard in that particular action figure set off eBay. But nevertheless, really cool to have two Royal Guards. I didn't have two Royal Guards as a child. Coming up next is another figure from my childhood. That is General Madine. Probably botching his name, but there he is. The camera will focus for us. There he is. That's a good shot. So very, very cool. Missing his little staff, but nevertheless, very, very cool. And then finally, from this set, I've got a dirty ATSD driver. This was not from my childhood either. I think I bought him off eBay later on. Just for completeness sake, not a figure I have a lot of enthusiasm for, but still, just for the sake of having all of them, or as many as I can, there is the ATST driver. Awesome. Alrighty, guys, finally switching gears away from Return of the Jedi for the first time in this video. We have a Hoth Rebel Commander. I think that's his official name. I think this is the John Ratzenberger, Cliff Clavin vintage version of that character. But still very cool to have the intergalactic mailman here in my vintage collection. And he wouldn't be complete without a cadre of Hoth action figures, including, of course, Princess Leia in Hoth gear. Picked her up off eBay a couple of years back. This is not from my childhood. Neither one of these actually are from my childhood, in case I didn't mention that. But this is a favorite action figure. Had her briefly as a child, and misplaced her. So really happy to have her in my collection as an adult. That's one of my favorite Princess Leias from the vintage line, honestly. Love that one a lot. So that's a great, great Princess Leia. And then we also have, I actually have a ton of these. I've army builded these guys for my Hoth playset that I have upstairs. That is, of course, the Hoth Rebel Soldier. Not going to spend a lot of time on him. There's nothing really to talk about, but he's still a great figure. This is a great version of him. This is one is actually from my childhood. I've kind of kept tabs on him, and the gun is actually original from my childhood as well on that one. So that is very, very damn cool. Also from the Empire Strikes Back line, I picked this guy up off eBay. He was not from my childhood, although I have mourned the loss of him for many, many moons, as it would be. But here is R2-D2 with sensor scope. This came out in the Empire Strikes Back line. This is, of course, not from my childhood. This was someone else's R2-D2 that they kept in better shape than I kept mine. But still, I love that particular R2-D2 a ton with the sensor scope, which, of course, can be moved up or down in his dome, as you guys can see. I mean, it's a little disruptive to the look of the figure when his sensor scope is down, but, you know, when you're a kid, you don't care. It's just absolutely awesome. That was always one of my favorite R2-D2s, and I remember getting him on my birthday, and really, really awesome. Just glad to have a nice-looking, display-worthy sensor scope R2-D2 in my collection now as an adult. Alrighty guys, I mentioned in my last video I have a Return of the Jedi poncho indoor Princess Leia. I have two of these. I featured the one that I bought as an adult in my last video. This is the one from my childhood. I am missing her belt. I don't know where the heck that one went. The gun is a reproduction, but the poncho is original, and the figure itself is obviously original with a lot of paint wear on her scalp there as a result of that's just absolute play wear there. A lot of love for that particular figure. So that one's great. Figure that I have piecemealed as an adult collector. I believe all the parts on him, minus maybe the coat, is reproduction, but nevertheless really glad to have a complete Yoda from the Empire Strikes Back. Again, I think his gimmer stick, the snake, and the belt are reproduction. Figure is obviously original, but not from my childhood. I bought this as an adult. I really wanted a really nice, clean, vintage Yoda, and now I have one. Had him for a couple years, and he looks absolutely fantastic. That might be one of my best action figures in my collection, as far as just how clean it looks and how awesome it looks. I mean, it doesn't, value-wise, it doesn't hold a candle to the Man over here, who is all original parts and is a very rare figure. But just for having a really nice-looking Yoda, this figure fits the bill a lot, even though, again, most of the parts on him are reproduction, so I could never sell him as original, but still nice to have. And again, this is not a monetary issue for me. If it was monetary, I probably would have hawked him a long time ago. This is all about nostalgia and just really, really enjoying an action figure line that, for me and for most of us, totally got us started on this plastic crack addiction we all have as adults. The vintage Kenner Star Wars line made me the super shitty consumer I am today, for better or for worse. Yeah, really love that Yoda though. He is awesome. And then finally, we have a vintage Bespin Luke Skywalker. This particular Bespin Luke Skywalker action figure is from my childhood. The gun is original. The lightsaber is reproduction. And you can tell he is from my childhood because he is a jiggle monster. Look at those loose joints. I do have him on a modern vintage action figure stand to keep him standing up straight. But he is from my childhood. You can tell all the paint wear, all the love on this particular piece. But this has always been my favorite version of Luke Skywalker, the Bespin Luke Skywalker. I have numerous Bespin Luke Skywalkers throughout my collection, and this action figure here started it all from my childhood. This is probably the second one I owned. I think I lost the first one I ever got, and this one I managed to keep in okay condition throughout my childhood. Yeah, really awesome figure. One of my favorites. And I'm really glad to have him still in my collection as an adult. This is a great piece from my childhood as well. Alrighty guys, a couple more odds and ends before we finish up this video. I've got a Tauntaun here. A Tauntaun with my vintage. He's got dust bunnies all over him. He is so dusty. I'm kind of annoyed how dusty some of these figures are that I've had displayed upstairs. But he is a Tauntaun there with my vintage Han Solo. that is from my childhood there. The vintage Han Solo is from my childhood. The Tauntaun I bought as an adult. Got him in a eBay lot along with this Tauntaun here, which also has a saddle on it but is missing his reins. But still very cool. The Empire Strikes Back Luke Skywalker is from my childhood as well. Nice memory on that one. I remember coming home from school in the first grade, and my mom just had him sitting on card, obviously on card. She bought it at the store that day. Had a bad day at school, came home, and she had that sitting in my bedroom waiting for me as I got home from school. And so really nice memory on that particular figure right here, the Luke Skywalker from Hoth. Very, very cool figure. Han Solo, again, is from my childhood as well. Both of them on Tauntauns that I bought as an adult, but they are still vintage Tauntauns. And then, of course, stalking them from the ice is the Wampa. I love the Wampa commercial from when we were kids with the overzealous kid playing with the Wampa that would come over to your house. You know, you kind of think of that kid as the kid that come over to your house and play Star Wars wrong. You know, there was always that kid that played Star Wars wrong. Well, this kid looked like he played Star Wars wrong. So he was always in the commercial. He was always overly enthusiastic. Wampa, Wampa, Wampa. I mean,
Wampa! 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 Wampa, Wampa, Wampa! Wampa! Thanks, hon. And you too are too.
damn Wampa doesn't say Wampa, Wampa, Wampa. You guys remember that commercial? Anyway, all right. So there is the Wampa. I would stand him up, but I think I'd knock over half my figures over here, so I'm not going to do that. But here he is. I have him displayed upstairs with one of my Hoth turret vintage set. If you guys want to see a great video I put together about 2 years ago, if you're new to my channel and maybe you weren't around then, I did a great vintage Kenner play set roundup video about 2 years ago. I'll post that card in this video for you guys. You guys can go back and check that out for some more vintage love, including in that video I talk about my vintage Death Star play set, my vintage Jabba the Hutt play set, my new Ewok Village, my new vintage Ewok Village from that I just bought at the time, and others as well. So check that video out if you guys haven't already. It's about 2 years old, and I was a little newer at eBay back then, so please don't mind some of the lower production issues on that video, but nevertheless, really, really cool. So anyway, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up here. Oh, we do have one more to get to. Alrighty, so check it out. I actually have a clean, another one of these that's clean that I bought as an adult, but this one I had as a kid, and I didn't have a lot of these. These were the die-cast vehicles. I didn't have a lot of these, but this is the one I had as a kid. I actually traded a kid something to get this. I don't remember what I traded in, but I think I got the better deal. And yes, all that battle damage is Sharpie that I put on there as a kid. So I battle damaged this myself as a kid. That's what that Sharpie is. I don't know if that makes it look better or not, but anyway, sort of charming, because that's my own childhood imagination. That was my first, maybe one of the first mods I ever did on a collectible, but pretty cool. So anyway, there is my, I believe these came out in 1978, 1979, die-cast metal, vintage mini Millennium Falcon. And if you look really close in the cockpit there, you can see Han and Chewie sitting in there. So really, really cool. This is pretty beat up. Didn't come with the little, I want to call it the deflector dish. I might be mixing up Star Wars and Star Trek there. Sorry for that sin. But yeah, it didn't come with that. It never had that. The one I have upstairs does have it. The clean version I have that I bought as an adult, the much cleaner version. It also has a broken landing gear, but still really, really damn fun.
Must have had a self-destruct.
An Imperial probe droid.
Alrighty, guys, well, that is going to wrap up this edition of The Plastic Planet. I hope you guys enjoyed that conclusion to my vintage Star Wars action figure inventory that I've been doing in the wake of what is going on in the world right now, because frankly, guys, I just can't get out there and look for stuff, as no one can, because I am in quarantine, as we all are. And beyond that, I'm not really interested in spending a lot of money right now, just because of the economic uncertainty of what has been going on. But nevertheless, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I've got so much I can show off here, guys. This place is a pit of shit, but good shit, really good shit. So I can just keep going, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying this little series, this little inventory series. I've got more to get to as far as my collection goes, and I do actually have something new to unbox for you guys that I actually have had for about 2 months now. I just keep forgetting to unbox it, and I need to do that. So I will be getting that up for you guys here in the coming days. So look for that video. All right, guys, like I said, that's going to wrap things up here on the Plastic Planet. Please like, share, comment. Please do subscribe, and please stay safe out there, guys. Love you guys so much. And yeah, that's it. All right, guys, well, that's going to wrap things up here. Life is oh so very, very, very short, guys. So stay in and appreciate all of your plastic crap. All right, guys, till next time. Later. Love you. Bye.
Wampa, 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 wings, hon. And you too are too.